All right, I am very excited and thank you for joining Bloomz as we continue our webinar series around the topic of communication and education today. Our discussion is about assessing communication strategies to include our family and internal partners. I am first proud to introduce our speakers. Dr. Daisy Morales is the superintendent from Live Oak School District in Santa Cruz, California tonight. And she comes up with us with over 20 years of educational experience. And Dr. Morales, I was really excited to hear about your background in leadership. And I love this, transformational change in organizations. So you are a change thought leader. That is really important in our time with a lot of changes happening, right?
Yep,
and
a lot of changes all day, every day.
That's right. And then I'm so excited to introduce Collin Brooks. He's the Director of Communications in Johnson City Schools, Tennessee. He has a unique background. I did not know this about you, Collin. You were a journalist in your past, and then you came to be an educator. I want to hear more about that story. I'm super excited. So I conclude, Collins, that communication is probably always at the top of your mind.
Yeah, definitely. And just clear, transparent communication is very important. I worked as a journalist for about 8 years and then came to the dark side of PR and public relations. And I've been so happy to do school public relations and just share all the great stories of our district and work with different tools to help our families get a better understanding of what really happens in our schools on a day-to-day basis.
That's awesome. Dr. Daisy Morales, would you tell us a little bit more about your background and what those 20 years of educational experience included?
So before the 20 years, actually, it's my second career.
Okay.
I was a CFO of a nonprofit for about 10 years before I decided that I could not reconcile another bank statement to save my life. So I went back to school and got my bilingual teaching credential and a master's in curriculum and instruction. And I started teaching. I taught everything from a 2-3 combo, bilingual, to I ended up teaching high school Spanish. And so I've taught the gamut, but I've also served in multiple district level positions, as well as a site principal. And a lot of what I do now really comes from the lens of a site principal. So go figure. And so my last position, I was assistant superintendent of educational services in Salinas. So again, the gamut of experience, but the more and more I'm doing this, the more and more, as we were talking before we got started, the need to market and communicate and share everything that the district is doing is critically important nowadays. And it definitely is a link to decreasing enrollment, and how do we share with our families what the wonderful things that we're doing so they want to stay in the district. So yeah, anyway, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I'm Bobby Jones, the Director of Customer Success with Bloomz. And I'm excited to have this time with Dr. Morales and Collin Brooks to have some discussion about their experience. They have been in the trenches of communication within their school district, and they have had the experience of figuring out how to assess, how to implement communication programs. And the first question that I want to pose to you is, how did you assess the need to provide more engaged communication opportunities for your schools?
So I'll start us off. I came to the district as a new superintendent in July. So I've passed my 100-day mark. But in coming in, there wasn't really a united platform for communication. So the way I found out about Bloomz is we had one school out of 5 that was using Bloomz as a communication tool. They were paying out of their site funds. The other sites kind of haphazard of what's currently being used. And I said, oh no, I'm like, we need something that will unify us as, in terms of communication. We're a K-8. So we need a united way to communicate. And for me at this level, the district level, is what does our engagement look like, right? 2 ways. So it's not just us sending emails or, making phone calls and, voice phone calls that go home, where it's one way, right? So what is that 2-way communication that's happening between the parents and the teachers and the district? And so I was looking at a platform. So I'm very familiar with Parent Square. We won't talk about them. Another communication tool or platform that schools can use. But what really drew my attention to Bloomz, and why we decided, not only because it was at a school, but also is the teacher component of Bloomz. The be able to track the behavior aspect from the classroom up, and being able to see that data, and it keeps teachers from having to go to multiple platforms. And I wanted to stay with it because of that component. It really is a platform that was built for teachers. And now they've built the dashboard at the district level. And I thank Bloomz for doing that, because that's what got me to sign on the dotted line, is that we're able to, yes, have that two-way communication, but it's really built around teachers and making sure the teachers have real two-way communication with their parents.
Yeah, and I'll just pick up, when we were going, looking for platforms, and something I've learned as we assess this all, parents in communities, they want to be involved. They don't know how, or they don't really want to make much of an effort. So we really just need to be where they are. And we've kind of learned that this is where our parents are. So, our families, they appreciated our communication, but they didn't like the multiple platforms we were using. And there was no district-wide kind of protocol of how to use things. So you could have 3 kids in our district at 3 different schools, 3 different age levels, maybe elementary, middle, and high school. And each teacher, each school, they could use a different platform. And so that's where we got a lot of frustration from our parents. And I really wasn't familiar with Bloomz. But when we brought our teachers together, teacher group together to try and figure out how we could solve the problem, it just kept coming up, Bloomz, and so that started to make us research it a little bit more. And we've been a Bloomz district for probably 3 or 4 years now, but we just kind of got the paid version really just about 3 or 4 months ago. So we're still trying to roll it out, but it's just important to reach parents where they are, and for all of our teams, our clubs, after school programs, teachers, to be on the same platform, so parents aren't learning different platforms. And like Dr. Morales said, the granular communication that it provides, where you can do it at the teacher, at the school, and then also at the district level, is something that's really unique. And our teachers have really appreciated the ease of use with the platform. And we do have some growing pains, but I think that everybody's really happy that they can pick up one phone, one platform, one app, and keep up with every district and teacher in our school. So it's been really great.
I'm wondering, when you're looking at assessing the need to provide more engaged communication, do you have a SIP plan or school improvement plans within your districts that you have to look at, surveys that come in from parents? Where are you getting the information for the need for more engaged communication? Did that start happening during COVID? Like, where did that process start, you looking in these directions for a comprehensive communication platform?
So for us is really goal 1. I'm looking for the goals so that I can say what it is. Really for us was the goal 1 of our LCAP. And so in California, we have the Local Control Accountability Plan, which talks about promoting family engagement and community partnerships, and providing opportunities for communication and opportunities for participation. So when I looked at that particular goal, they had, like flyers and things like that, but I'm like, that's not really going to get us really engagement, right? Engagement requires two-way communication. And so even though Bloomz was not written into this plan, it does support this goal. And I think it meets all of or most of the actions that they were looking to promote through doing bits and pieces here and there, but holistically, Bloomz does what we want to achieve through this goal.
Yeah, and for us, I think our engagement plan really was, are we getting the flyers to parents? Are we sending them home in the backpacks? I'm really excited. We're embarking over the next few months on Johnson City Schools Board of Education 5-year plan, and communication is a big standpoint. In the last 5-year plan, actually brought me on board. We didn't have my position before that. So on all of our goals, goal one was hire communication specialist. So we did that. Our director of communications retired. I moved up, but we're really looking forward to integrating Bloomz as a platform into our communications plan and how we engage with our families. Because something I've learned really quickly is, parents will send a private message or they'll comment on a post that we have if they don't understand. I saw something today for our basketball team, and they didn't mention the gym where they were practicing in. Parent immediately just engaged with them, and they were able to answer that question spot on. It wasn't, I didn't check my email. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Is that immediate response, which is really important in the communication today with families. They want to know that they're being heard, and that's how we do it, when we react with them as quickly as possible.
And so when you're looking at providing more engaged communication, let's look at the next question really quick and see if this helps me. Oh, we talked about that. We did bring that up, Dr. Morales, the goal is to embed more engagement between the schools and families. When we talk about engaging the families and them being a responsible body of the success of the students now, I mean, you are considering now the families as partnerships, right, in this communication. So tell me more about how that goal of that partnership is helping embed those engagements.
So for us, at least I'm starting that work, right? Because we want to be sure, and COVID obviously didn't help. Because with COVID now, parents are not on campus. So our parents cannot come on campus yet. We're hoping to have a process together where they can start joining our campus and volunteering and all of that in January. And again, new to the district and in learning what has been done, we have had a lot of parent volunteers, but we really haven't had a focus about bringing them in as partners, right? So one of the things we want to start with our parents is establish them as pals, parents as leaders. They're going to be ambassadors for their school sites around all things around teaching and learning. So I hope to be able to do walks with them on campuses to see what improvements we can make. We're looking to grow this idea of a community school where we're bringing in actual services from the community into the schools. So just being very holistic when we talk about engagement, that it is engaging the families and the students with all of those kind of wraparound services that we would hope to get outside sometimes of the school, but really building those community schools and embedding true engagement with parents by our side.
Yeah, and I know I kind of skipped over it on my last one, but you had mentioned, how are we gathering this information from parents? Before COVID, we did parent surveys. We would gather that information, and that's where we kind of learned how they wanted to communicate. And that was on the phones where they wanted to communicate. COVID has only, increased our need to communicate and provide fast and accurate information. And so, we listen to our parents, and that's something that we continue to work on. And Bloomz has made that really easy. So, yeah.
Yeah, I really like those points about the partnership of the families too, and that is clearly changing the culture and landscape of schools and the expectation of engagement between the schools and families. So what kind of things are you hearing from the parents as you're working in these platforms of communication? I just kind of want to hear from you're in the trenches. What do you hear as you're implementing Bloomz?
So officially it's been at that one school for the last 2 to 3 years. I think that school has kind of grown with Bloomz because the principal tells me, oh, we could do so much more now than we did when we first started. And so we haven't officially launched it yet. We have our admin team meeting coming up with you soon, actually. And we're hoping to actually launch it with parents in January, mid-January. So we haven't used it district-wide yet. Our school continues to use it and they love it. So one of the things I did is I got on the back end and I sent everybody an email. I'm like, or a message on the platform, say, hey, we're thinking about going district-wide with Bloomz. What are your thoughts? And I had all the parents and all the teachers saying, oh, please keep it. It's wonderful. We'd love to be able to communicate with teachers. So I know what that school is definitely feeling, and they really love it. So I'm hoping that same love goes all over the district as we launch it district-wide.
And we're trying to we've rolled it out over the last few months and kind of taking a slow approach with it. But I think we get too caught up sometimes. We just need to communicate, kind of be transparent, be things accurate with the information we send out. And we're not going to please every parent. I think some will say we communicate not enough. Some will say we communicate too much.
That's always going to be the case.
Yeah, and so we listen to it all and we take the feedback. And just like schools, we'll have schools that use it all the time for everything, principals that do, some that don't, but we just kind of want to set a standard and an expectation of what parents can expect when they're enrolled in our schools as far as communication. And I love what Dr. Morales said, that pals the parents as leaders. We may be using that in Johnson City, Tennessee. So that's really good.
Go ahead. I took it from someone else. Believe me, we share the love.
I love that. And I have heard too, not only with parents, but they're actually utilizing a lot of these engagement strategies with students. So students are being part of the equation of the partnership too, because at a higher level of communication, when they get to middle school and high school, and sometimes even in 4th and 5th grades, they also can be part of the partnership and have their voice heard about what their needs are for communication. What's your thoughts about those? Because I've heard schools starting to do that and engage their students.
So we do want to set up groups in Bloomz. Once we have it going, one of the things I'm going to set up as a superintendent is a superintendent student council. And I'll be using Bloomz and creating that group there where I'm sending the messages, for whenever we're meeting and all of that. So I'm going to be using it that way for student engagement and student voice. And at the district level, I can also push out stuff to just students on Bloomz. So if I want to say, they want to hear from me in terms of, hey, don't forget to do your survey. Remember, I need for you to go to On Clever. And, so I could also use it to communicate with students, which is critical because we do need student voice within the plans that we're doing.
Yeah, and student voice is so important. We haven't tapped that aspect of Bloomz yet, but we will look into that in the future because students can provide us so much information. Some things we may be overlooking. I know we've tried that on some of our social media platforms to kind of give them the content they want to grow our engagement. But that's something that we will look at with Bloomz going forward.
All right, so that was a good conversation. It's always fun to hear about how you're looking at the partnerships from your implementation and your district levels. What features were important as you drive implementation of a communication plan with your district? Like really, what was the most important features that you needed in order to check the box and run with it?
Okay, I'll go. For me, it was the district dashboard. So when I met with Chucks, I think he's the co-founder, co-owner. I'm not sure. I know he's one of those.
He's the CEO. Yeah.
Okay, so I met with the CEO. So
Yep.
Sorry, Chucks, my bad. And so we met and I told him, I'm like, I'm not signing. There's no district dashboard. I'm not signing because I need to be able to measure, get screenshots of what's happening in terms of communications. So I could use those charts in the dashboard as part of backup to our LCAP and, engagement around XYZ, right? So I needed that district dashboard. And I could have gone with another platform because I have that relationship. I know what their dashboard is going to look like, but I was like, I really stopped to think about, first of all, to ask my teachers that have been using it. But then when I saw the back end for teachers, I'm like, okay, so how long will it take for you to have the dashboard up and going? And I literally gave them 2 weeks. I'm like, if in 2 weeks you don't have your dashboard, I'm going with someone else so you can show me what I need. Literally, this is the kind of conversations I've had with him. And he goes, Daisy, give me 2 weeks, I promise, in 2 weeks. And so that's kind of how we ended up I actually did sign the 3-year contract with Bloomz because he was able to give me what I needed at the district level and still keep what teachers really wanted, which is a whole package of engagement, putting in, parents could put in files, that whole aspect of the classroom, because we know the magic happens in the classroom. But at the district level, I really needed that dashboard. So in my current position, that's what I needed.
Yeah, and we kind of had a unique experience. We like I said, we had been using Bloomz for a couple of years, the free versions, and heard great things about it. It was just a little bit, too expensive for us to think about district wide at the time. And then our tech department really, which they need to do, got on data privacy and how important that was. And so that's when we kind of looked at getting on board so we could get data privacy agreement signed and all those things. Because when I took it back to the communication committee that we have, that's made up of teachers and administrators, and said, hey guys, we may look at a different platform than Bloomz. We had a few teachers that were just not very happy. They were on the verge of tears, because here they are so comfortable with a platform that we've asked them to use for so long. And it's just easy for them to use. So that ease of use was really important for us. The two-way communication, like Dr. Morales mentioned earlier, it used to be, oh, we've got something we want to tell parents, so we'll just send out an email or a robocall. There was no concern about how they felt about it or anything like that. Well, Bloomz gives us that platform where we can really have those conversations with our families, and provides us a safe space to share all the great things that are going on in our district. Another great feature that our teachers rave about is just the sign up feature, that you can sign up and do parent teacher conferences. That's really kind of simplified the process for them. And I don't have any specific numbers, but I think that our parent engagement has gone up when it comes to student parent conferences, parent teacher conferences, just because of the ease of use and finding a time that works for you.
Those are really great. I would love to hear that data, Collin, when you get it on the data and the percentage increase of parents being active. Because from what I hear, it's very easy to use from the teacher's perspective. And the parents have ease of use as well. And it has just increased with their ability to connect.
Well, and like you mentioned, we talked earlier, it is sort of just like an internal social media where you can share the great things that are happening. You can share pictures and posts and things like that. So, a lot of people are comfortable with Facebook and Twitter nowadays. And so now you have a safe internal space where you can share those things. And, you don't have to worry about, just all the crazy things that are out there in the world. You just have this safe space with Bloomz where you can share that stuff.
Yeah, I would agree.
And if you can do Facebook, you can do Bloomz. It's
Yeah.
that simple.
That's right.
That's for sure. I also wanted to tell you guys what's coming really soon in the next week. Have you heard the new feature that's coming out for Bloomz?
No.
Oh, there's a whole bunch more admin controls coming for the accounts. So we will have the opportunity to be able to edit account emails, edit account phone numbers, edit their names, help them with their notification settings, just ensure that the connection is completed with the parents coming in and accessing Bloomz, and there's no gap with our parent connection. So we are constantly listening to you, and we really want to meet the needs to make sure that when you're sending an invite to the parents, that when they access that invite and they join, that they have everything taken care of them and that you can serve them well. So I'm really excited that that's coming out soon. More to come.
Yeah, that's great. And just one more feature. I apologize, I didn't.
No, go for it. Tell me.
Something that we've really enjoyed is the ability to, there has to be some sort of district control, just in a hierarchy. So the ability to just navigate into a classroom and see how teachers are using Bloomz and see those conversations that are happening between teachers and parents has just been another way to strengthen that engagement. And, teachers, they need a good pat on the back too. So if you navigate into a classroom and see, man, they're really using this, we've invited them to do some demonstrations for the district. And I think that's just, that positive reinforcement of using something that the district wants you to. So I've really enjoyed that feature also.
Well, and I think that parents have, our teachers have always made such an effective effort. You know, I appreciate teachers, especially during the COVID, just reaching out to those parents, trying to get them involved and keeping their interest and keeping the students' interest. And Colin, I love that you said that. Now you have that data just to really like celebrate that you can really see that the impact they're making. I think that data is always impact, right?
Yeah, no, it's great. And it's not even the numbers, I know I, like Dr. Morales, really do enjoy the dashboard, but it's even the conversations,
Mhm.
the two-way communication between parents and teachers. So, we know they're communicating because we can see that they sent out a post, but what did they actually say? And I think sometimes that's even more valuable than how many people read it, is what message was sent out.
That's a really great thing to say. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next question. What strategies are you using with your adoption and implementation and implementing the communication platform within your community? So I know, Colin, I'll start with you first because you've started implementing, and I know you've had some strategies along the lines for ensuring that it's not taken overwhelmingly, right? So tell me more about your strategy of implementing.
Yeah, I mean, like I've said, we were in that unique situation where so many teachers were already using it. So it was a very easy transition for us. So now it's really just getting our strong teachers that use it to share how easy it is to use with their peers. Same with our principals. We have some principals that really do a great job and wear it out. Others, are just maybe uh, they're trying, but to hear that strong voice from a principal that's confident in the platform and from a teacher that's confident, I think that is sometimes more valuable than the different videos that are out there. And then that's another strategy we've used with the resources that are available through Bloomz. Just in our district newsletter, just pushing out different videos and showing teachers kind of that it's easy to use, because the last thing anybody wants right now, especially during this time, is to add something else to the plate, right? So when we say do this, but it is easy, here's a video, and when you have time, let's work on implementing these things. Some of those resources have really been invaluable to us. So we'll continue to rely on the library that Bloomz already has established, the way to use the platform. And then we'll have our teachers and our principals have some sessions on how we're going to use it, how we're going to implement it. And just so, it's kind of everybody's in it together. You should be able to go to the classroom next to you and ask a teacher, how do I do this? Or did you send it as an announcement? Or, what do I do with an announcement? Or what's an alert? Or what's a post? So we don't want it to be hard for our teachers. We are kind of mandating that this is the communication platform they use, but we're not just throwing it to them and saying, figure it out. We're trying to build that up. So we'll continue to do that.
So that's a good segue for me, because we haven't really started implementation district-wide, even though, again, like one of our schools is currently using it. So one of the things I told those teachers is like, I'm counting on you to help your peers and the other schools on how to use it and, the tricks of the trade. And so, so I'm counting on them. And again, it's pretty intuitive. It's pretty user friendly. Again, you can do Facebook, you can do Bloomz. And so, but again, counting on the community. By the way, Bobby is amazing. She will help you and answer all of your questions. And so it's great to have a good customer service connection, because again, I value great customer service very highly. And so, but you'll always be able to connect with someone that will help you walk through it. And so I expect there won't be any hiccups. Teachers will learn, and we're also going to tier it. So we're going to open it up in January, have them play with it for the rest of the school year, and then just let them know come the fall, this is the way we want you communicating with parents. So they'll have a good time to play with it, to learn, to, work out the kinks, to ask questions, to view trainings and all of that. And we definitely will have a more intensive training right before they come back to school, just to remind them how to use it, where to post things, and all of that. But that will be more in the fall. So they're going to get to play with it during the spring.
Well, and when we came over, we had We have like a north side elementary, a south side elementary. So all of these different profiles were out there. And so when Brian and Bobby both came and brought us on board, they did so much work on the background of getting those schools, together. There's probably hundreds of Northside Elementaries. So we had to pinpoint them, and every time I email them and say, hey, this teacher's still on a free account. How can we get them over to premium? I hear from them that day, and we get them moved over, and the teachers are really appreciative of it. So it is important to have good communication, good customer service, and all those things, because the last thing you want to do is implement a program and then say, oh, I don't know, you'll have to figure it out, so we try to work it out. I try to work it out with the teacher, and then if I can't get it done, I email Bobby, and she hops on it. We had issues today, and she was there immediately to fix them. So you don't want to look like the fool when you're saying you have to use this, but
and it doesn't
figure
work.
it out. Yeah, that's right.
I know, and we're in the era of understanding tech issues. And do you not love the fact that COVID brought up the whole humanizing of humanity and mistakes and learning, because everybody had to learn? So tell me a little bit about how that COVID and using communication and just the learning portion of it. I know, Collin, you're still learning. I just want to hear from your point of view. What are you learning through all of this, the changes?
Well, I've learned that we have to ask for a lot of grace, that we may send something out one day and the legislator may do something and we have to change it the next day, and we're sorry, but we just want to communicate that to our families. So this provides us with a platform to do that. And it sounds crazy. I love the feedback we get from parents. It may be, not nice sometimes, but even you can find some kind of grain of sugar and all that madness. So, we've got to be able to communicate quickly with our families, because things change quickly. School closings, district closings, classroom closings, and we didn't really have those abilities with Bloomz when we started with COVID. And so now we're trying to see how we can use it and implement it. So it's been good.
Good.
So I have a whole dissertation on change theory. So
I know you do.
I won't get on that pedestal.
I want to hear all about it.
So no, it's the idea is people are afraid of change. So change is personal. Change is hard. Change is scary. So anytime any change to someone's way of doing things, it's always going to be a scary thing till they actually do it, get over on the other side. They're like, oh, this wasn't that so bad. It's actually better now, right? But it's that fear factor. And so this whole COVID thing has been about getting comfortable with change, because literally things would change. You're about to press send, or you hit send, and a new thing came out that made what you just sent out old. And so it's that whole idea of flexibility and resilience, everything we want our students to be able to do and flex with and be comfortable with. Our adults had to learn that quickly. And so the message is like, breathe, we'll work on it together, we'll figure it out together. This is not the end of the world. If something doesn't work out, doesn't work, right? And so just being really graceful with each other, very, as he mentioned, patient, and just, being kind to each other, because again, we were all under a learning curve. And so some of us love the change because you can adapt quickly and learn new things. Others of us are a little bit more resistant, and that's okay. Everybody has their niche and the way they process and the way they move along. Obviously, I do change really well. I can pivot in a dime and still be smiling on the other side, but not everybody can do that. And I've learned that. And so just being able to be kind with everybody.
Yeah. And so bringing in a new communication platform is a lot of change for your districts, right? And I'm wondering, this is a question I've asked a few district people, is when you're utilizing a communication and engagement program, how does that align with the teachers? And are you utilizing that for teacher when you, I'm sorry, I'm losing my thought, when assessments, teacher assessments, because we do have teachers that they do need to prioritize communication in their classrooms. Do you utilize that data to ensure that they're doing that part of their expectations as well? I was just wondering, from your points of view, as you're implementing this, is there an expectation of use? And are you having that with the teacher, their assessments?
So I think what you mean by assessment, I think you mean evaluation.
I do. I couldn't come up with
So,
on the
okay.
spot.
So it wouldn't be necessarily part of their evaluation per se.
Yeah.
If it is set as a district expectation that all teachers you'll do X, it falls more under like their professional obligation. So it's not necessarily something they'll be evaluated on, like they don't have to do so many of so many, posts or whatever. But the idea is that they're using it as the tool to communicate if we're doing it as a district-wide initiative.
Okay.
Yeah, and I would say something similar. I don't think it would be in their evaluation, but I think that's where the dashboard shows you how many messages they send. But what does it matter how many messages they send if they're not effective? And so I think that's where navigating in and seeing what the message actually is. Maybe they're only sending one a week, but maybe it's a recap of the week and a look forward. Another big thing for us that hasn't really been a priority, but is now, is just the way that the Bloomz can easily translate for our families. We had never really had a tool like that. And so that's something that has just really been great. We have, we're a district of about 8,000 students, 12 schools, one of them being a virtual academy. But we've never looked at that. We have 58 languages. That's where I was going. There are 58 languages spoken in our district. And so, Bloomz is there for each one. So it's not relying on a student to get a parent message home to a parent. Parents can read that in the language they're comfortable with, and then they can communicate back to us in that language that will be translated. And I know that kind of went off a little bit, but I think that's the evaluation of, are you using it appropriately? Are you showing your parents that it can be translated into their language? Those things are important nowadays, and they're probably more important than ever. So
that takes me to thinking about Dr. Morales's depth of training for the fall, is really, how do you use Bloomz effectively and successfully, where it's a depth relationship and communication rather than just posting that doesn't have effective, that transactional or that engaged response from the parent.
So it's all around, at least for our district, it's along the lines of how you message it with the teachers, and how you give examples of what can and can't be done on the platform. And the idea that we are looking for true engagement versus just posting one-to-one. And the platform in itself lends itself to that, because they might make a post, but parents are going to comment, and parents are going to know that they can communicate with their teacher on this app. So they're going to know they can message the parents. And parents can message them. So I think over time, yes, the newer teachers in the other schools that are not currently using it, it'll be a learning curve, right? They're going to have to kind of get used to using it, responding, but they're going to have really good feedback from the current teachers that are using it. So it will be more organic and more two-way communication, true engagement over time. It's not going to happen overnight. It might just be the first trimester or two, just making posts as teachers are engaging in the platform. So it'll take time, but we'll get there.
And one thing, just because a parent can send a message 24 hours a day doesn't mean that a teacher has to respond. So very early on, there's a nice quiet hours feature in Bloomz, and we've encouraged our teachers to set that, let families know that that's set, and don't feel obligated to respond to something at 9 o'clock at night. It's your time, you need time. So this isn't us saying you've got to communicate with your families 24/7. We just wanted to provide them with a platform that's easy to use and that serves everything that they need to be done. So we had some hesitation at first of, oh, this means that they can message me at any time, and we're like, no, just calm down. You set your
You can
hours
turn it
and
off, yeah.
yeah, that's right. So that's another nice feature. And as we continue to grow that, that's probably the first thing we'll tell our teachers is this is how you find your quiet hours. This is how you set them. And we expect you to set them just as much as we expect you to use this platform.
Yeah.
That's really nice that you said that balance for the teachers too.
Yeah, you have to, I mean, teachers, everybody's going through it with COVID, and teachers are just as much and more than anybody else. So everybody needs some time to decompress.
Yeah. So I have a question from one of our attendees. They would like to have your advice from a district level of how to implement a new program.
So so I guess I have more questions, but my questions to that would be is, have you already started looking at different platforms? And if you're going to, if you haven't, then that's would be the first kind of conversation. What is it that you want to be able to get out of it? And then at the district level, either assistant soup or soup, you have to be talking to your union leadership about this work. They need to know that this is coming and that it's going to be a slow tier, but eventually the expectation is that you're going to be using this platform. So it's important to have that conversation with your union. At least it has been in every district I've been so far, where you are sharing that this is where we're going and this is why. Here's the why of it. And these are, we can do pros and cons, but the idea is that we truly do need engagement. We need one platform for it. For me, it's important also around safety. We haven't even touched that piece around being able to send those alerts. X thing is happening at your site. Here are protocols, attach something and send it to the parents right away. So it's also an aspect for at the district level of safety and communicating during critical times, whether it's a lockdown or shelter in place or an active shooter on campus. We need to be able to have that way of communicating to parents quickly. And so again, build your pros and cons and make sure you're having your union leadership near you as you're looking at them, make them part of the looking up and the listening to the different platforms, and making sure that they're on board with you. So that way you don't have any hurdles to jump. Maybe after you've signed an MOU, make sure they're aware with you before you sign the MOU. If that's at least my big global one that I would have, but it would be more of a conversation. What have you done and haven't done? Maybe don't forget to do X. But that's kind of at my level, that's what I'm thinking of.
Collin, go ahead.
Well, and I think like Dr. Morales said, is starting with the why is so important. Then you kind of back in. We were very lucky that a lot of our teachers requested this. They were already on board with it. And so we haven't had to force feed many. We may have to down the road. We may have some people that are hesitant to get on board. But I think, just everybody seeing how easy it is to use, maybe seeing that level of engagement grow. Your PTA feels more heard because you provide them with a platform to share. Now you may have to set what parameters with them about, hey, every time, you don't post something every 10 minutes, but I think everybody just feels more involved because they have a voice. And with our PTAs, it's not really a filtered voice. They have sign-ins and they can share the events that they have going on. We haven't had any issues with that. So I think there's just buy-in when people see how effective it is. I don't have any magic words of wisdom as far as implementing it goes, but just start with the why and back in from there and realize I heard on your the one you guys had last week, you kind of have to go slow. You have to start slow to go fast.
Yep.
Right. And so everybody wants it to just flip a switch and everybody's using it. Teachers love it. Parents love it. That's not going to happen. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. So just realize it's a process.
And then always be ready for your outliers, right? You're going to have the teachers that really love it. They're like, they couldn't live without it. And the ones that no matter how how much you share the why and how much you talk about the benefits, they're never going to be happy. So just be ready for those outliers. They always exist. As long as you have critical mass, you're good. And so just know that you're not going to please 100% of the people 100% of the time.
Those are great words of advice, because this is a big decision for your districts to make in what program that you start implementing and gaining traction on, right? This has been a big deal. You've gone through several steps. You've had many different parties that have come together to review, make decisions about the adoption, and then begin to implement.
Yep. We
Yeah.
have.
I am just going to say it real quick. If there's any other questions that anybody has, please go ahead and put them in the chat or the Q&A. And we're excited to answer those questions from a district level perspective of really implementing and assessing communication in order to be effective with your families. Any questions that we have this afternoon, we would love to answer them. Or it's this evening, isn't it, for most of us? We'll just give a little bit of time. I want to make sure that we answer any questions, because I know this hasn't really been discussed a lot as far as communication platforms, the change of landscape and communication, and really we need to discuss it a lot in greater length of what are the trends, what are the strategies, and especially as we go in through the year, Collin, I'm excited for us to look back and you know, how did it work? Could we have done it different? What was the response from parents, or how could we have implemented it better? It is difficult right now. And I've heard you both say that we're all coming out of a big year of COVID, but we still have the kind of the dragging of COVID, and your teachers beginning school year has been really challenging with all the changes. So Collin, you're taking it easy, and Dr. Morales, you intend to as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing, you know, as you go to implement these things is you have to understand, you know, just like you're feeling it at the district level, it's been a stressful time. Teachers are too. So the last thing they want is to be mandated to have to use this, something they're not familiar with. And so, you know, I would just encourage people to give it time and let it grow as, you know, the engagement picks up and you have satisfied teachers and parents. I think the expectation will be as they go from elementary to middle school, well, you know, my 5th grade teacher really used Bloomz and you're not using it very much. And so what can we do? So that's why we were really excited about having that singular platform across the district.
Same here. We will see how it goes in middle school. So I know their elementary teachers are pretty excited. But middle school, you know, it's a different vibe, a different culture at middle school.
Yeah.
The idea is that they too will have a platform where they can use it to communicate with their parents in a way that, and it also keeps all the data safe. It's all in one safe location. It protects them, it protects the district. Let's just keep it all in one place.
Yeah, that'll be fun to see how the middle school does. I was a middle school teacher and a middle school principal, so I'm super excited to see how that goes. It's really fun to hear teachers talk about when they start allowing students to have some interaction with Bloomz and how they share things with their parents. Because they don't just want to share it with the teacher. They said, I really want to share this stuff with my parents. And not only that, but creating a whole responsibility between the parents, the teacher, and the student, where the success lies in that circle. And so it's really exciting to see that transition of communication to everybody instead of solely on the teacher in the classroom.
Right. Again, parents as leaders, pals working together.
Yes, I love it.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, you're going to be pals.
Well, that's right.
Teachers.
I can't wait to see you get traction on that and watch where that goes. So I don't see any questions. We can go ahead and wrap up. I would love for you to say just a quick goodbye. And can you summarize for me really quick, what does communication in education look like today?
Oh, I'll let the journalist go first.
You know, I think it's quick. It's quicker than it's ever been as far as, you know, we have to get this message out now. I think that was very real before COVID with school closings and weather. You know, we have snow in Northeast Tennessee, and so getting that information out. But now it's kind of even day to day, and people have kind of taken from COVID the expectation of being reminded of things. and having a calendar that's easily accessible, and being, as a teacher, being accessible. And so I think that's kind of here to stay. And so I think a platform like Bloomz can really help schools, teachers, districts get better with that, get more comfortable with that, and just evolve as communication continues to evolve. And like you said, Bloomz will be that platform that continues to evolve and be there along for the ride, and help us delivering those messages to our families.
See, that's why I had him go first. I'm just kidding. I ditto to everything you said, but like never before, communication is critical. And where it was roughly expected before COVID now has magnified that, and parents are now expecting it because they know it's possible, right? Everybody now, pretty much every student has a device in hand. Pretty much, I don't know of any district at this point that does not have one-to-one devices. So there is no longer an excuse for communication not to be digital, and to be available, and to be quick and accurate, and be at the fingertips of parents. So now it's just as critical as it is a textbook. As important as that is that's what communication now is. And as we talked a little bit about the need to market what districts are doing, communication is even more critical, that we're doing it not only in a place like Bloomz, but also on social media. And so that is now an expectation of school districts to communicate regularly, quickly, accurately, efficiently. It's now just the way that school has to be done.
And equitably.
And equitably.
Oh,
That's
that's a
right.
big one. That's a big
Yeah.
one for me, is equitably. I mean, we got language supports, translation. We can get it to everybody. There's no reason anymore, right? I love it. Thank you so much.
By the way, the
being here.
translation to Spanish is pretty awesome. I played with it because I'm like, let me see what this is going to translate to.
Yeah,
And so the Spanish, at least the Spanish translation is pretty spot on.
awesome. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
'cause
thank you
we've
so
had that
much.
issue before. Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you. We appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here, and I'm thankful to the attendees being here to listen to you. And we will have this posted, and we have another session next week to wrap up our webinar series on communication. And we're excited to have you attend that as well. You all have a great night.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you all.
Bye, Collin. Have a
Bye,
good
Dr.
night.
Morales. You too.